Hi, and this is a summary of a project we have been doing with other collaborators almost since a year ago. It started, I think, February last year. The first activity was in March, but we announced it in February, and then we made a call for people that were interested. We got 300 people interested in 2 days, and we had to cut the people signing up to the form. And I will explain later the processes, but we did a first activity that was just the people that passed that activity were allowed into a private Telegram group, and those were the people that we worked with for the year. So the idea is to teach, like the words may be different, but web technologies, web development. The initial stage is website development. That's HTML, CSS. That's the first stage we are finishing right now. We have already done this 2 times in the past, but they were what do you say, in person, presential, and so they were given in Cordoba, Argentina, in a room with real life people in the same room. But of course, this year mainly this started in February, and it was full remote because the three main collaborators were not in the city of Cordoba, where most of the people were, and also this allowed us to extend it to other places in Argentina. This activity is given in Spanish, so, and since we are mainly from Cordoba, it's most of the people are from Cordoba, but this can apply to anybody as long as they speak the language. So the first call was 300 people, and then we made a first activity that was basically this one. Was just they had to do something to prove that they were interested enough. So they had to see some videos and create a GitHub account, and create a repository and put a file in the repository. And like this is a big step, but we want to always use technologies that will be useful after. We don't want to use like simple technologies, but that later all the knowledge won't transfer to what they need to do later. So we did videos. How each activity has a video explaining everything. So how to create a GitHub account, how to verify the account, how to create a repository and a site. And we used all we never required to install a Git or a GitHub tool in the desktop until the 8th activity. 1 year later, all the activities could be completed only with a browser, without installing anything locally. That was also to make it easier for people to complete the activities, and it was easier for us to not have to fight when troubleshooting problems. So we used the web features from GitHub. You can create files, you can commit files, you can create repositories, you can create branches, you can do everything from the web. So we explain those in videos. So we never they are not learning Git, they are learning GitHub basically, which is okay at the beginning. So we explain how to create the account, verify, create the repo for the personal website, and how to put files and some content there. But the content was not them writing HTML at the beginning. We created a tool called Blockes Web, which are like web blocks, which uses the Google Blockly, and it has different levels of abstraction. The first level is really high level. It's semantic. It says title level 1 and alert. So if I put an alert and a text, it will show this. And you can inspect the HTML. So you can download it here and you can see the whole site. So the activity required them to do something with the blocks. It was just dragging some blocks and then copying this and pasting it in GitHub. And that was the activity we used to make the cut of people that they were interested enough to see some videos and follow some steps. From there we went from 300 interested people to 100 that completed the activity, and that was the group we work with. We gave access to a Telegram group, a private Telegram group, and from then on we work with let's see, How is it? We have a mailing list with tiny letter, and we announce the activities in the site, like this one you're seeing, and on the mailing list and on Telegram and on social media, but mostly people follow the mailing list, and we use they could reply to the mails they receive to troubleshoot any problem that they may have. Some of them were active on Telegram, but not all. And then the next activities were all based on Block's web blogs, because the first one were exploring like different things at a high level, at the semantic level, but then so we could build like complete websites from the high level components, because we have bootstrap blocks for images and navigation bars and other things, so they could just drag here. And in later activities we explain a little bit how the blocks translated to this, but they didn't have to edit it. After some activities, we introduced some lower level codes, the blocks that were like the HTML tags, and we asked them to create one higher level block and then replicate it with a lower level block, so they could see like the high level semantic one, the block with the low level HTML block, and they had to map it to what they translated in HTML just by looking at it, nothing more than that. Then the next activity that involved editing the HTML was just they had to just edit the title of the page. It was just to take out the fear of editing HTML, and they had to change something that already existed. And so that took a couple of activities, and we used those to explore what was available in HTML and in Bootstrap. So we covered a lot of what could be achieved with Bootstrap directly with blocks. And then some activities said, okay, take this card block, which translates to a lot of HTML, and replicate it with the lower level tags. The last level was this, where you had to like write the tag yourself and you had to put the attributes. So it was almost like writing HTML but with blocks, so they couldn't make a mistake. The next step, after we went from semantic to HTML but with blocks, where they could select to blocks where they had to write the tag and put the attributes themselves. We went to the next tool, which we call Código Web or web code, which is similar, but on the left you have a tab for HTML and one for CSS, and so you cannot add more files, it's one on one. And this is the Monaco editor from Visual Studio Code. So the idea was that the tool that they use here will translate whenever they install Visual Studio Code. And the initial activities was just copy and paste something from web blocks in here and make some changes and see the things. This is fully responsive, so every change reflects instantly. So that allows them to see all the changes. And we have error reporting in Spanish and autocompletion and stuff like that. And they can revert to the default in case they make a mistake. And here again this also reflects instantly. So the next activities were the first activity with this was copy and paste a template and make one or more changes. I don't remember specifically, but was getting some code that already has something and changing it. Then the first one was really simple, change some things, copy a block and change some things. Then later there were activities where they had to transcribe. I made a video like writing the code, and they had to follow and write the same code, and that was the activity. I don't know if I mentioned it already, but the activities like the to deliver the activity, they had to create an issue on a repository, and we use issue templates, so they had to just replace the URL, who they were, and give us some feedback. And with that, we all these videos are here, and also everything I did for this project, I recorded a video. So I showed here how I bought the domain for creemos.com, how I configure the DNS. There's an introduction to Blockers Web. Let's see how this website, the Creemos and Lored website, is created using a tool called Publi, which is a static site generator, but that's visual. So I also showed how to install this and how to use it to create a site, and the site is created with that, and it's published as a GitHub site. So I also explained how to configure the domain to point to a GitHub site. So people following this could install Publi and create a website using the same tools we use for the project. And everything is here in videos. How to add a YouTube video on Publi, how to install Firefox and Chrome on Windows, how to install Publi on Windows, how to change images, how to edit a file on GitHub, how to create a repository in GitHub, how to rename a repository in GitHub, how to create, edit, delete our files in a repo in GitHub. The crazy thing is that these videos about GitHub in Spanish are the videos that get the most views. Of course, because other people on YouTube find these videos, but they have thousands of views. How to upload a file on a repo on GitHub, how to create a folder in a repo, how to delete a repository, because some people didn't like that they made some experiments and they had more repositories than they wanted to because some were mistakes. They wanted to know how to remove them. How to create a site on another repo, not the personal site. I had to explain absolute and relative paths in the URL attributes. What's HTML? Because this was the first time that we were editing HTML and not creating it with blocks. I made there was some confusion about files, pages, repos, servers, and stuff like that, so I made an explanation for that. I also always made a video with the complete activity, me doing the complete activity, so if they were stuck, they could see how I was doing it. Then I explained how a web browser works, what it does when I enter a URL, how DNS works and everything like that. I did a video showing, I think this one was requested, how a real developer works. So I made a video, a day in the life of a developer, and I created from scratch a simple website using Visual Studio Code and a local web server. Even when they were not they were just creating sites with blocks, and to show like what the real deal would be when they reach there. I explain absolute and relative paths again using an analogy with rooms in a house, saying like if you enter a room that has a bathroom, if you say the bathroom, you are relative to the room you are in, or you can give everything absolute from the front door and stuff like that, because the previous video was not understood. I was also showing how easy it is to create a fake screenshot of a tweet by basically, this was the introduction to developer tools. So I showed that I went to a tweet and I used developer tools to change a tweet and take a screenshot to show how easy it's to fake a tweet when you create a screenshot, or how easy it's to fake some news even without Photoshop skills. But also it was an introduction, a subtle introduction to the developer tools. I also did videos of me creating these two tools, Blockers Web and Cody Web. When I was developing them, I was recording the videos of how I did it. I gave overviews of the tools. I explained the parts of a tag, HTML tag. Then I give an introduction to margins and paddings. And then I explained divs and spans and the blocks and inline tags in styles. Then there was an activity with tables. Then the introduction to CSS. Then explaining selectors. Then I did a color picker, and I make a video of how I was doing it. I explain selectors, IDs, classes, tags, and stuff like that. I explain the different color formats. I gave another video of margins and paddings and borders because the first one was not enough. Also, I made a video of how I make the videos, of how I use OBS. I explain fonts and all the CSS properties for text. Then I explained the grid system for Bootstrap and Flexbox, and for that we used there's a nice tool online, frog game or something, where you have to play a game with a frog to learn Flexbox. So the activity was to complete the levels for this game. Then I created a full site because we knew enough to create a full site, and that was the activity. Then this one was not an activity, but I explained how to insert YouTube videos because they were asking. And then I made a complete from scratch site using only HTML and CSS without Bootstrap, because until now all the styling was done with Bootstrap, most of the styling. Here I made it from scratch, and I explained how to use semantic HTML tags, not only divs and spans, but tags that are specific for an activity. And then we already know how to write HTML, CSS, and know enough properties to make sites and know about Bootstrap. So the last activity that I released today is about installing Visual Studio Code, installing an extension for HTML and CSS, installing Deno, which is a simpler Node.js tool that's simpler to install and simpler to run and simpler to install scripts. And then I installed a file server script, and we made a really simple site embedding YouTube videos, Vimeo videos, SoundCloud music, and Google Maps, because people were asking me how to embed external values, but how external content. But the main activity here is we are like moving to the big leagues. We are installing all the tools to do local development after a year of doing all the development in browser without installing tools. The idea is that this is like the last activity of this stage and the first activity to the next. Last time we did most of the attendees that reaches this level wanted to go to learn JavaScript, but now we are going to see how many want to go to more hardcore web design and how many want to go to programming with JavaScript. So that will involve introduction to JavaScript and later using Vue.js, and this requires installing these tools. So this is the last activity of this level, but also to show like now you have everything you need to keep, and you're using the same tools that real in quotes developers use. So this was the whole year, and at the end of the year I think like people are catching up. I'm catching up with the issues. There are people that are still 2 or 3 activities behind, but in total there may be like 20 active attendees at this point from the 100 that started, and this was a crazy year, so it's understandable. But also the thing is that everything is online, and we try to also create timeless stuff and content that doesn't break, so the tools are always there, and everything is open and published, so anybody that wants to catch up, they can catch up, and we will do corrections to old activities if they are delivered. We don't have like deadlines. We have soft deadlines. We expect like people that are doing the activities in time to deliver them in 2 weeks, but if somebody is catching up, we will do the corrections for those activities too. And the people that want to do the activities from today, they can follow, because everything is, all the videos and all the descriptions of the activities are available online. So this was what I've been doing last year, and next from this year it may be probably about JavaScript and Vue.js. If many people want to go the design side road, we will have to find somebody that knows more about web design, because I'm not. I mean, I can do some web design, but I'm not a web designer. So this was basically what I've been doing last year.